Thanks for joining our Best Meetings Ever series, sponsored by GoToMeeting, and really excited to have Roger Corville from Event Builder with us today. He's got a lot of good stuff planned. First, my name is Erica Mackey, and I'm here with you from the team at GoToMeeting. And I've had the pleasure of working with Roger quite a few times before. We had a question or two come in last time via the GoToWebinar webcast panel, and they asked what was Roger's connection with GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. So I want to address that up front. Roger's our online meeting expert. So at times we're lucky enough to have him present on our webinars for all of our customers. So we'll get going with all of his good content today. A couple things to note. We're using the GoToWebinar webcast version. That allows us to have up to 2,000 live attendees, and it's a web-based join experience. It's also computer audio only. So hopefully you have your volume turned up where you can hear us, or have a headset and have the ability to listen through your computer's audio today. So take a look there at where you can interact with us, and make sure that when you're typing in your questions, there's a little drop down that you can send the question to both of us or just one of us. So keep an eye on that. And our speaker again today is Roger Corville. He's with Event Builder and the team at Event Builder, and he'll be talking about how to host online meetings with impact today, our second in our series. So take it away, Roger.
Thank you, Erica. Hey, welcome back, everybody, for part 2 of a 4-part series. Today we're going to just do kind of what we did last time, which is kind of shorter on the presentation, longer on the Q&A. If you were with us last week, you remember that our agenda actually kind of looked like this, right? And we kind of said, hey, I believe that there's these differing levels of experiential richness that map to productivity. And so today we're talking about the theme of impact. Last time was confidence. This time is the theme of impact. We're going to kind of focus on kind of these areas right here. And then you'll want to be here next week for talking about attention, getting and keeping attention. If you missed last week, you're going to know that one of the things that we're doing a little differently is kind of upside down, short on the presentation, long on the assistance, ask anything kind of Q&A. And so we are in part 2, which is impact. Next week, and today's going to kind of start with tools and also talk about skills, whereas next week is going to be almost all about skills in getting and keeping attention, and then we're going to do a crowdsourced kind of thing. Again, one of the things that you're certainly welcome to do if you would like would be that I created a special landing page just for a whole pile of things, copies of the presentation, extra stuff, eventbuilder.rocks/GoToMeeting, WBR for webinar, and away we go. So I'm going to kick this off with something I've never done. In 17 years of being in this business, I've never done this. Actually, in September will be 18 years. I've never done this, and you're going to have to help me. All right? So I did something kind of very interesting and purposeful, which is right now we are on Mac. I'm presenting from my Mac, and you're listening to the mic and speakers. You know how when you go into GoToMeeting, you can choose telephone or mic and speakers, and then GoToMeeting encourages you to plug in a headset? Well, I want you to, we're going to compare a couple of those because I want you to sit in the audience shoes of understanding what people are hearing when you have different ways of going about this. So this is mic and speakers on my Mac. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. You with me? All right, so let me mute that. The quick brown fox. Helps if I have my little mute unmute thing here ready. I'm going to mute. All right, this is Roger on his telephone. Helps if I turn off. Sorry about that. This is on my iPhone. You will notice if you look at the camera, I am on my earbuds. Here we go. So the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. This is with the earbuds. I'm going to unplug the another way, holding the phone up to my ear, iPhone, straight with no earbuds. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. All right. Now I'm going to from my PC. This is different than my Mac. I'm going to switch from phone call to computer.
All right. This is my mic and speakers on my PC. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. That is my PC mic and speakers.
And switching back to my microphone, headset. Now you can see why we don't normally do this in a, you know, in a live event, right? This is something a little bit different. I'm going to switch to, there we go. This is my USB headset on my Macintosh. And this is how I'm gonna hang out with you for the rest of the time. This is what I do most of the time. But Erica, just out of curiosity, what kind of input do we have? How are people hearing the differences?
Anne is saying that the iPhone earbuds sound fuzzy, but the phone with no earbuds is a little more clear. Mark was asking, why do I sound so fuzzy? And I said maybe it's because I'm on a PC using VoIP. And hold on, because Roger's just about to demonstrate that. So hopefully he heard the same kind of thing that you were trying to show. And kudos, by the way, audio demos have never gone that smooth for me before.
Well, hey, by the way,
Don't
a couple
try
times
this
you
at
heard
home.
some feedback. Why does feedback happen, right? It's because the audio coming out of some speakers goes back into a microphone, right? And then that creates a closed loop, right? Like a singer in a rock band holding a microphone up in front of a speaker, right? That creates feedback. So many of you, whoa, Amy, Gloria, a bunch of you obviously saying the headset sounds a lot better. Here is a principle, and I'm going to teach you one additional thing, and then we're going to go, because we're talking about impact. And I want to ask you, when you hear a voice that really resonates, what is it that resonates? And one thing I want you to do is know that you're going to sound much better when the microphone is close to your mouth. All of you said the phone sounded better than with the earbuds, right? And that the headset is even better still. But I want to teach you one other principle, which in the world of audio engineering is called proximity effect. And this is something that audio engineers like myself know, which is that bass or low frequency response falls off more quickly away from the source. So the farther you are from the microphone, the more the low frequency pickup response of that microphone falls off, and that might be where you get some of that resonance. You can notice it. Look right at the camera. Look right at the camera. I'm going to even demonstrate just by doing this. Move my microphone up here. I'll try to speak loudly enough so you can see it. Move the microphone right down here and at the corner of my mouth, and you can notice probably a significant difference in the resonance. All right? So when someone says to you, oh, you sound just great on your mic and speakers, right? Remember that if you want to have impact, one of the challenges might be you don't want to just pay attention to them saying they can hear you. You want to know that you want to sound good. Get your microphone close to your mouth, and that's usually preferable over using mic and speakers on your PC or your Mac. All right, so another participation exercise. In the following demonstration, which font size is the smallest acceptable from your point of view? And here's what I want you to do. I want you to use questions. I'm going to put your finger kind of mentally or figuratively or literally on the A-B pairing that is the most interesting or useful to you. And what I want you to then do is go over to the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar viewer and type in which font size from your perspective is the smallest that you think we should use based on this particular little exercise. Joyce says 24, John says 54, and wow, they're coming in fast and hard now. So Erica, help me out. 24, 54, 60, 36, 18. Who said 18? 12. There was a 12. All right, 54, 42, 36. What are you seeing, Erica?
Smallest 60, 42 is the minimum acceptable, 48 much better, Laura says.
Okay.
They are moving quickly. Everybody's awake out there.
Yeah, exactly. 42 is the most appropriate from my perspective, says Mark. And that's kind of the thing, because one of the things that I want you to notice down here at the bottom in today's presentation, I said, hey, I think it's useful, especially given how well the GoToMeeting mobile app works, that increasingly over time people are going to get more and more comfortable with being on mobile meetings. Here's what I want you to remember. Monitor size is different. It could be on a mobile device, could be on a 19-inch monitor versus a 13-inch monitor, an iPad or something like that. And you should at least be thinking about, how do I design for the lowest common denominator? Now I want you to pay attention to what I'm going to do here, because right here I'm just going to drop out of full screen PowerPoint mode and demonstrate something to you. When you open up PowerPoint in just kind of its default format, what font size do we have in default? And this is PowerPoint 2016 on my Mac, right? Down here at the bottom is 18, 20, 24, right? 28. Title is 44. Now, you just got done telling me, the vast majority of you just got done telling me, not everybody, but the vast majority of you just got done telling me that 18 or 20 point font was too small relative to your perspective. So I want you to remember this. People who put PowerPoint templates together often make things pretty, but it isn't necessarily based on cognitive science or effectiveness in a particular medium. And what we want to do is get smarter about being in a particular medium. Now, I also want you to remember one thing. Font size is relative to the font and style. There is no perfect font size, because if you type in the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog 4 different times and use 4 different fonts, they're going to appear differently. But I want you to remember that in a relative sense. And now I want you to pay attention to how I transition from this slide to the next thing I show you. Okay, I'm going to pause speaking for a moment because I want you to pay attention to how I transition here. Okay? Now the next thing I'm going to show you is a website, and I go like this, and it's right there. Did you notice that transition? Here's something that I want you to be aware of. What I just did is I pushed the pause button, which will freeze your screen while you're doing anything else behind the scenes, and then I could go, I push the pause button and come back, and then I could say, hey, you've got a decision to make. That's me pushing the pause button, the next thing appearing being the thing that I want you to see, as opposed to, which I think of as a clean transition compared to a natural, right? Most of the time what I do is I just go, hey, I'm just going to drop out of full screen PowerPoint mode, and it's kind of like you looking over my shoulder, and, like this, right? You just see me kind of drop out, you see me navigate around, you see me go to a website, something like that. Now, something that I'm going to tell you about that is something I want you to be aware of is this feature inside of GoToMeeting that allows you to not just share your whole screen, but to share a specific application. So I'm going to switch mine from sharing my whole screen where you see a browser to just sharing PowerPoint, right? So I just selected not just even PowerPoint, the application, I selected this particular document, right? This particular instance where I can go be in that document. Well, what happens? What do you see the minute I switch to back to a browser? Well, there you go. So if you want to make some uber clean presentation, it's not right or wrong, it's just a different way of doing it. You could do that in a way that says, I'm just going to switch my main screen, or I want to only show a specific application because I don't want people to see me navigating around on my website. That is also useful if you have notifications that pop up and you don't want there being some kind of a chance that oh, you know what?
Roger?
You're only, I forgot to push screen share again, didn't I? All right, I'm going to do that one more time. There is my
There we go.
Mac, and it automatically went to pause when I dropped out of full screen PowerPoint mode, and when I went to another application, you just continued to see that pause. So behind the scenes, here's what I was looking at. It did not show this because I had switched documents, right? Or I could switch, applications. But again, like example, I don't want there being a chance that a little messaging notification pops up from my significant other that says, you know, that is, you know, says, "Hi, sweetie, when are you going to be home?" Right? So something to pay attention to. It's not a right or a wrong, but I think you do have a decision to make with regard to the way you do demos. Do you want it to be clean and the whole thing perfectly and smoothly transitions? Or are you just going to kind of let them look over your shoulder as you navigate around? Not a right or a wrong, but I think they each have their place. In fact, you know what? I'm going to just point out to you the key features that we were talking about, right? You can pause your screen, which means that will freeze that in front of people, and then you can go somewhere else, right? And or you can share a specific document or application. So instead of it just seeing everything that you navigate to, you could navigate away from that document or application, and then when you go back to that application or document, you're good to go. All right, kind of final thought in our last few minutes here during the presentation part, and then we'll get to all Q&A. Mimic your in-person interactions. One of the things that oftentimes I hear, because I've been doing this a long time, is people go, well, you know, it's just not like being there, and we addressed that a little bit in the last week's gig, and we're going to do it again in each of the next couple. But I want you to kind of think about this specifically with regard to the function of chat or chat and your attendee list, right? So last week, one of the questions that came in was from Tammy, and on the fly, if you were to go back and watch that recording, Tammy says, "Hey, I would love your thoughts, questions, and feedback. Wait till the end. I can see the pros and cons of both." Okay, so I'm going to both answer her question and demonstrate along the way, because what I want to start here with is with you. If you were going to say, should you save questions and feedback and comments till the end, or should you do it during? What would you say? Just go over to the questions pane and type that in. Tammy says, thanks. Well, you're welcome, Tammy. Notice I didn't call out your last name. I'm just using you as an example. Mark says during. Craig says at the end. During. Thank you, Linda, Kevin, Bob. Lots of, oh, beautiful. And there's who said that. Ratan says, kind of it depends on the session. There's a number of it depends. All right, here's kind of my point. When I do presenter or speaker training, which I do a lot of, I ask them this question. I said, what would you do offline? If you were in an in-person audience, what would you do offline? Because offline, we understand that there is a difference between like a keynote presentation where the sage on the stage does all of the delivery, right? And a training session where it's open, and like a seminar, and somebody in the front row raises their hand and you pause and take their question, right? So oftentimes webinars look like this, right? Mandy says, my demos are always interactive, so always during. Well, I'm a big fan of saying, I think there is a time to say, how do we mimic what we do offline and move it online? And I'm going to give you both a simple little formula, and then I'm going to point you to a resource, and then we're going to kind of be done and wrap it up for the day, okay? Wayne says, depends on the presentation. However, typically like folks to be able to ask and then address if I'm coming to the item. Yeah, perfect. So I personally prefer that too, because most of the time we're not doing keynote speeches, right? Most of the time we're in a meeting or we're doing right? So here's a simple thing that I want you to do, and I always work, regardless of who I'm working with, I work through this same exact process. Analyze what you do offline. I'm not going to go into more detail because I'm going to turn you onto a resource. Then how do we map that and adapt it to the tools that we have within GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, GoToTraining. We're talking about GoToMeeting today. And then I want you to be open to one thing. Socially, psychosocially, we notice what we lose before we notice what we gain. And I don't want you to stop until you discover things that you can do new or better or different in GoToMeeting. And it doesn't just mean talk to anybody else in the world. There are things that you can do better in in an online situation. And I'm going to give you one example, right? And then this is my final illustration. If you were in a sizable, let's just say that you're in a situation where you have a sizable meeting that requires introductions. And what we often do in person is we often go into a meeting, we hand each other business cards, and I don't know about you, but you lay those business cards out on the desk or table in front of you so that you can see each other, right? And then verbal introductions, sometimes that's one-on-one, sometimes you do a round robin. Right? That's an in-person kind of a scenario. Well, how would we adapt that or map that to GoToMeeting? Well, one way would be, hey, who are you? What's your title? What's your function within the organization? The stuff that's on a business card. Maybe you went, and one example of lots of potential examples is you go type that into the chat in GoToMeeting. Well, what's the power of that? I can not only see it, but think about the psychosocial way that the interaction changes. Not better or worse, but when we're in meetings and do a round robin introduction, we have to do it sequentially because we'd otherwise talk over each other. Sequentially versus everybody types it into chat, which would be simultaneous. Now again, not better or worse, but does that allow you to skip verbal introductions altogether? Does that include maybe your ability to give them a hot link that they could go look at your LinkedIn profile in a manner that would be obviously a lot more difficult with a business card in an in-person room? You see where I'm going with that? Not better or worse, different. So here's the resource that I want you to point you to. Many of you from last week, remember, go to eventbuilder.rocks/GoToMeeting WBR. We'll give you that again. But one of the papers that I did and studies that I did for Citrix, now logged me in a few years ago, was translate your in-person presentations online. And it has this little table that helps you map in-person activities to online tools and gives you tips and ideas for how to handle that, how to do that, just that same kind of thing. So with that, I certainly want to thank you for being here today. Get your microphone close to your mouth. It's going to sound a whole lot better. And by the way, your recording will sound a whole lot better as well. Designed for the lowest common monitor. Remember, if you haven't tried out the GoToMeeting mobile app on a smartphone, it's really cool. And I could tell you crazy stories of using it on an airplane. I won't do that right now. Clean or natural demo. Pause and share specific document are your friends when you want to kind of make it those cleaner transitions as opposed to kind of the just casual look over my shoulder kind of way of doing live demo presentations, and mimic your in-person activities, which is assess what I'm doing, analyze what I'm doing in person, map it to a set of tools, and then discover within those set of tools things I might be able to do better or more effectively. And again, I promise you that your meetings will be radically different than the typical just talk over PowerPoint. And with that, I want to say thank you, not only to you, but to my awesome team behind the scenes. And as I promised, we will spend the rest of our time just kind of hanging out and answering questions. Ask anything. So, Sean says, hey, many people that join my meetings choose mic and speaker options but do not have a mic. So they can hear me, but I cannot hear them. I then have to explain that they should hang up and dial in with the phone. Is there anything I can do as an organizer of the meeting to reduce this technical hiccup? Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it a technical hiccup, Sean. I would call it a logistical hiccup from somebody that doesn't understand their own computer. One is that you could when you set up a meeting, or in preferences I think as well, you can choose to only let people in on one of the other instead of letting them in, have the option of both, which then would force them to dial the telephone if the issue is that you got people who don't realize they don't have a mic or don't know how to fix it, that kind of thing. So, Erica, I'm going to take a sip of water, and if you'll take a question or two or look at, shoot them to me, yep. We'll just kind of hang out and do that.
Roger mentioned the mobile app a couple of times, and that's one thing. If you have a couple people last week doing sales demos join their own GoToMeeting session from a mobile phone or an iPad, but here's an example of how easy it is to read the slides with a decent-sized font, and I'm definitely guilty of that. So it's definitely a tip that a few people found helpful and will put to use. Let's see. Yes, so your point there with the audio and selecting either telephone or mic and speakers, or just maybe reminding people they have to have their volume on. I find a lot of people turn their volume off, and that's just a simple little hiccup there to prevent.
Well, and here's kind of related. Jason says, hey, we want to use GoTo for 100-person plus webinars. We would prefer to have the audience on mute, but allow audio for individual questions where the presenter enables audio for each question, but one by one, so that the audience can hear the question. Possible? Absolutely. And in fact, so let me kind of give a little background for Jason's question. If you were not aware, GoToMeeting is designed for generally, that we're more co-equal kind of collaborative communication style, right? Which is what we do in most meetings. In a webinar, which is a lot more like a presentation, GoToWebinar has a couple different versions, and the main version goes up to 1,000 people and allows you to unmute and mute at will. And what I do is I have people put their hand up, and you can then sort the attendee pane, where you could go and actually see who has their hand up and mute and unmute them and play radio talk show host all day long. You'll see me do that on one of my own webinars next week, which is next Wednesday, which you will, by the way, if you go here, you'll see a link to register for that. But to Jason's point, Jason, today we're on the version of GoToWebinar that goes up to 2,000 people, which is listen only. Both of them default with people coming in on listen only, but the main version, unless you're doing really big events, will allow you to mute, unmute all day long, and you can mute them, unmute them, play radio talk show host. Let me give you one additional tip. And by the way, even if you're using GoToMeeting for 30 people, this is useful as well. If you want to kind of maintain control and mute and unmute, what I do is when I mute or unmute, one of the things that you see when in the attendee list in GoToMeeting is whether or not that person is in on phone or voice over IP, mic and speakers, right? And I always call out what version they're on. So I go, hey, there's Jennifer on voice over IP, Jennifer on mic and speakers, how are you? Because remember that thing that we just saw, that question we just answered about people not realizing they don't have a microphone, right? They want to ask you a question, but they don't realize their microphone is turned off or something like that. I always kind of do that so that the audience knows that the person that I just called on is connecting to audio that way, which means it's not a GoToMeeting problem if they don't know how to turn on their microphone, right? That's their thing. So I always just call that out and go, oh, Jennifer, can't hear you. All right, going 3, 2, 1. All right, Jennifer, you're back on mute. You'll just have to type in your question. All right, off to the next question, and that's how I manage live Q&A. All right.
Question about our webcams. We talked about that last week a lot with Roger doing the webcam demo. That is a GoToMeeting feature, so everyone should have that available on all types of GoToMeeting accounts, as well as GoToWebinar that we're using today, but it looks virtually the same.
Steve says, I can't show my face via webcam like you are. You don't want to see my face anyway, Steve, but it is what it is. Is that only a function of GoToWebinar? No, that's a function of, you can turn on a webcam and GoToMeeting.
Yes.
So maybe check preferences or just talk to GoToMeeting's global support desk. Believe it or not, I've been in Australia. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I've been at a gig on site in Sydney, Australia, and contacted global support, and it's amazing actually what you can do. But you should be able to do that. Hey, and FYI, 2 seconds, Erica. FYI, I'm just going to say, hey, as we are crowdsourcing ideas for what you want to see more of in the 4th webinar 2 weeks from today, I'm just going to kind of put up our little agenda. Do we want to see more about designing PowerPoint and doing demos for this? Do we want to talk more about webcam skills? We want to talk, is there a particular something you'd like to do more of as we're crowdsourcing the topics that you want to cover for webinar number 4? Next week is about attention. Number 4 is going to be about whatever you want to do. And if you want to type that in, Erica and I will review. Erica, yes.
I was just going to say back from my customer support experience, one thing that can happen with the larger corporate accounts is that admins to the accounts can also turn certain features off. So it could be that your depends on lockdown environments or whatever it is, some admins have that turned off for all of the users. So that's another thing. But our customer care team can always help you with that. So that's always a great place to start. And I chatted that link out to everyone as well.
Julie says, will you be covering polling feature in an upcoming session? No, Julie, I'm not. Not in the next few, because we're just focusing on GoToMeeting, and the polling is a function of GoToWebinar or GoToTraining. The event that I'm doing in the next couple weeks for Event Builder, which if you go back to there, you'll find a link to it. I will be covering something like that, but in this couple sessions with Erica, we're just focusing on GoToMeeting and kind of the meetings-oriented paradigm. So, no. Any suggestion on the type of headset? Let me go back. That was scrolling really fast here. Somebody just had a headset question, and there's so many of you typing stuff in that it went past me. Yes, here's my preference with regard to headset. I used to go spend money on a good quality headset because I've been doing this a long time, and actually, believe it or not, you can get a cheap headset that works really well. From an engineering perspective, the reason is because the way the telephone handles sound is literally actually based on protocols and technology that was built 100 years ago, right? Doesn't mean that there aren't some digital voice things out there, but by and large, there's a reason why USB headset is the best sounding quality, because it doesn't have that same kind of frequency range restriction. Look right at your camera. Here, to me, is the magic button. This is me, but I personally use a USB headset that has an inline mute button. Inline mute button. Here's why. You already know that I can go into the controls in GoToMeeting and mute and unmute myself or other people as well, right? But for me, if that little panel is kind of like minimized so it's out of my way, and I'm going to sneeze or I'm going to cough, I want an inline mute button. So my personal requirement on a USB headset is that I want one that allows me to unmute. All right. All right. I'm seeing lots of people asking about stuff they want to see in the future. Need to drop off. Thanks much. Great webinar. You're welcome, Melissa. I use GoToMeeting through live to go through live platform demos of our technology/product. Historically, I haven't ever used webcam, thinking that seeing me would take away from seeing the platform. What are your thoughts? Says Mandy. Mandy, I think it's a tool that can be used well and it can be used poorly. If you were looking at the webcam right now, you can see that one of the things that I did is I just turned back and made eye contact with the camera, so it looks like I'm speaking to you, which is kind of weird because most of us want to use our slides as you know, like a teleprompter, so we're looking down and then you're looking at my forehead. I think, well, because I actually study the research, like primary academic research in this space, the jury is out on attention, but it's very clear on relational kinds relations as opposed to attention. So here's one of the things that I know. Anecdotally, I have asked thousands, and that is not an exaggeration, I have asked thousands of people, do you like seeing me on webcam, or would it be okay if I just turned off my webcam and just went through slides? Overwhelmingly, people say, we'd like to see you on webcam. And then I say, well, do you want me to turn it on at the beginning, and then I turn it off in the middle, and then I turn it back on at the end? And most of the time, not quite as overwhelmingly, people come back and go, no, actually, we like seeing you because it's like sitting across the table from you. Now, I'm going to ask all of you, what do you think to Mandy's question? Webcam? No webcam? Sometimes it depends. I'll tell you my personal reason why I don't mind, why I like turning it off sometimes, because I'm a goofy looking guy and I do weird stuff, and I think sometimes I just want you to focus on my slides, but actually most of the time I leave it on because overwhelmingly people like the personalization that comes with it, because now I know I'm talking to Mandy. Cindy says, keeps my attention more. Definitely webcam. Don't have one, so never use it. Laura says, yes, webcam, unless I'm working from home in my jammies. That's totally fair. I've been known to throw on a sport coat when I've got the, the party down below going on. I tend to pay attention more with the webcam on, says Valerie. Yes, webcam, but it's not great for people like me who talk with their hands, says Amy. Yeah, we're going to talk a little more about that.
Down here.
Yeah, exactly. Can we display our photo instead of a webcam? Yes, you can. Notice, by the way, that's where Gail says, "Hey, could we use a photo?" Notice this. I got in a habit a long time ago of putting my headshot photo on the opening and closing. That's just me. So for me, I do that just in case I turn it off, because who knows what I'm liable to do in any in any given day. So I love webcam. I agree. Being able to see says Tequila. Did I get your name right? I'm just gonna be real here. Larry says, I agree. Being able to see the presenter makes it more personal and personable. I like it. Webcam full time is more interesting, adds movement. Sometimes with the platform or tech demos, you need all the screen real estate for your demo. No room for webcam window. I use webcam for intro and then go full screen. Well, there you go. Did you hear that was Gene? Did you hear what Gene said? Sometimes I use it, but then I need to use all of my available, virtual real estate, and so I turn it off, and then we turn it back on. Erica, let's demonstrate that. Notice how GoToWebinar, this is GoToWebinar, but it'll be the same way in GoToMeeting. If we turn off our webcam, see what happens? And now we'll turn it back on. And now, GoToWebinar makes room for our little webcam, and GoToMeeting does it the same thing. So to Gene's point, it can be useful to turn on and turn it on off. Mandy says, I love that idea from Gene. Thanks. You're welcome, Mandy and everybody. JT says, hey, where's that share only one application button? Erica, are you on your PC?
I am, yes.
Should we show that with the labs feature?
Sure. Let me,
okay.
yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead.
Go ahead and make me presenter. Roger and I are not afraid to do these live things and demos.
So here's what I'm doing.
Here we go.
I just made Erica, by the way, notice what just happened to your screen, right? I quit sharing, or GoToWebinar quit sharing because I just switched the presenter to Erica, because she's got there's a feature on the PC that isn't on the Mac, and I just thought it would be easier to, instead of switching to my PC, to switch it over to Erica, where you can actually show your controls, and that way we can show you, JT, instead of just telling you, we can show you.
Right. So the feature is very similar on the Mac. We just don't have a way to show the control panel. Just using this here on your GoToMeeting in-session control panel, where you go to share your screen, you'll just need to click the drop-down where you can choose to show just a Word doc. And normally if I'm presenting, I close some of this junk, but you can see this is a good example. You should be able to see that drop-down right now. I can show certain PowerPoints or just my Chrome browser. I can also show both monitors at one time. I use 2 monitors. So this is where you can choose what you're showing your audience. And on PCs, you have a nice little audience view preview too. So if this was real life, I would go to this right now and say, oops, I actually haven't shown my screen yet. So you want to first share your screen. And I'm going to answer the question I saw a lot, Roger, where was the pause button? People like that tip. So once you do share your screen to your audience, you can also pause it. So at this point, my screen is paused. I can jump to different slides on my side, but my audience, I know that they're still seeing this same intro slide. And then once I find my answer, maybe I can go back to that slide and unpause my screen and play it again. Hopefully that made sense.
And there is another place. I don't pause it there personally. I pause it somewhere else. So I pause it from the little
the grab tab.
The grab tab. So I'm going to change the presenter back to me, and I'm actually going to grab the presentation that I did last week, because you're just going to see this kind of go live. because I had a screenshot in last week's presentation that shows you. Oh no, dang it! All right, so I'm just gonna have to tell you about it. So for some reason, my screenshot didn't show this. Most of you see this little thing that kind of sticks out right here, right? So, and it's got this little orange arrow at the top, and I can either collapse that panel or open it back up with this little orange arrow that appears right up here. If you kind of look in the upper right-hand corner, right? And on that are your basic controls like mute and unmute yourself, share, not share, and there's a pause button right there so that you can pause. And in fact, I'll just do that again. Pause.
A little different on the Mac and the PC is that screenshot's a PC. On the Mac, you have that little grab tab showing at all times, so it's kind of nice. On the PC, you have the two little double arrows to minimize.
Right. I forgot that changed. You can
say,
even though I'm sitting here in front of a Mac and a PC, you can tell I spend a lot more time on my Mac. Brian says, how do you get the webcam picture so small in this presentation? Is that by default? Meaning if I turn on webcam and I'm also presenting PowerPoint, will it make the webcam picture smaller? Yeah, so it'll kind of auto adjust. Brian, did you see that, like when none of us were sharing, it just kind of went to, showing both of our video cameras bigger, right? And attendees, participants can resize it. So if you kind of look at your little thing that says, it has the slide that says GoToMeeting resources, and down, has this other little, oh, there you go. Look at Erica's camera.
Another good reason to use webcams. So but even on computers.
You can drag that if you kind of like mouse over the little line, the divider between the webcam panel and the place where it's showing the slides or the screen, you can actually resize that and drag it around so that so you can have it make them bigger or smaller. So you have some ability to attendees or participants have the ability to control some of that user experience. Stephen says, oh, that's excellent. Yes, very nice. You're welcome. You're welcome, JT. Thanks for being here. Gene says, ran into this issue this morning with GoToMeeting. There was no list of participants as an option for the organizers to turn this off. And the answer is yes. So Gene, it sounds like you were not the host of the meeting. So let me describe for you. When you are the one hosting the meeting, you can choose which features you want on and off, which to me is one of the hallmarks of a professional application. It's not just the existence of a feature, it's the ability to turn them on or off as is appropriate. Like for instance, in GoToMeeting, do I want attendees, all participants to see the chat, or do I not want them to see the chat? Is one of those things that you can make a decision for as a host. You also have a whole pile of additional ideas or things that you can do. If you go into GoToMeeting preferences, you can then actually choose, do I want the little chime to happen when somebody joins the meeting, or do I not want the little chime to happen when somebody joins the meeting? So one is in File menu or across the menu across the top of your Mac, or preferences. GoToMeeting preferences gives you the ability to change how you use your webcam audio, where the recordings go, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, another thing you can turn on or off is the ability for your attendees to chat, like Roger said, see the attendee list, and or share webcams. So you can turn the webcam option off for some meetings. So some of you who are intimidated by that feature, there are some times you might just turn that feature off, and I'd say most times you can leave it on.
Sharon asked a question that makes me wonder if I explained myself as well as we could have before. Sharon said, how do you put your headshot in for opening and closing? And Sharon, I'm sorry if I was not clear on that. I put it on a slide, right? So like if you're looking at my screen, I put it on like a slide, just as an opener and a closer. I also do that because if you're going to give away a copy of your slides, I think it helps add some personalization to the document if you give away a PDF of your slides. Some people do, some people don't. I usually don't, but I am with you. So that's part of why I do that, but it's not in GoToMeeting. The opening and closing is in the PowerPoint deck itself. That said, if you are, Sharon, are you using a PC or a Mac? Just out of curiosity. If you are, just for those of you who use PCs or have the choice of which one you go to, on the PC, you can add a little picture of you that shows up in the attendee list next to your name. So it shows up in that attendee list as well. And is that still in labs? That's still a beta feature? Am I remembering correctly,
Yeah,
Erica?
correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But that's kind of cool, where you could actually you can take a picture like a JPEG or a PNG, drag it over onto the attendee panel, or use the little upload function, and it will add it to you next to your name on the attendee list. It's kind of cool. So, all right. Last annoying question for the day, Gene. Not annoying. We're going to help. We want you to rock your world and go to GoToMeeting. So no such thing. Okay. Sharon said PC. Okay, perfect. Sharon, it's on a PC. That'll work for you. Why does GoToMeeting require you to convert a recording video after the fact? Why not just natively record AVI, MPG, or other format? Good question. Even though I know the product manager, I don't know the answer to that question without having to convert it. I do know this, because it makes the recording locally and it's trying to handle multiple, this is my guess, this is not authoritative from GoToMeeting or LogMeIn because I don't work for them, but my guess is that because of the unique way that web and video conferencing applications have to combine multiple sources of audio, video, etc., that there's some way that encoding happens that means that it's then a GoToMeeting format recording, and then you want to upload it back to your server, and then it converts it back. That answer is, that's the best answer I've got, which is I don't have an answer for you. So I think using a headshot on the screen is very effective. Nice headshot, Ryder. Thank you. I will tell you I've got the best photographer in the world who is here in Portland, Oregon, who actually has people fly in from all around to do headshots. So thank you. So with that, I know we're kind of pushing up, and we want to make sure that you have what you need, and at the same time that we get you to your next meeting on time. Again, if you're with us during the series, next week is about attention, and I'm going to actually spend more time talking about some of the science of attention specifically applied to this environment. And then the week following, 2 weeks from today, is going to be just kind of it's not going to be a free-for-all questions like we're doing. I'm going to still do a short presentation, but I'm going to do it based on crowdsourcing your opinion. So if most of you come back and say, hey, we want to know more about PowerPoint or interactions or using your voice or whatever, I'm going to teach you some additional things about how do I use my voice more effectively. The old musician in me still loves to do that. So with that, Erica, any final thoughts or things that you want to share before we get people on with their day?
Yeah, perfect. The question about the fourth session topic is also on the exit survey. So if you're still thinking about it, look for that survey when you leave, and please give us your feedback. I did chat the link out to the slides via the website, Event Builder website that Roger shared earlier. I just sent that out again. So you saying you were sharing your slide deck with your headset reminded me of that. So that's where you can find all of those resources and then some on Roger's site there. And hopefully we'll see all of you next week, and look for today's recording and last week's recording on the reminder email that will come out tomorrow, 6 days ahead of time. So apologies for those of you who I'm bothering with so many emails, but I know you want that recording, so that's how I'm sending it out to you. And Roger, thanks so much for all of your great tips and tricks.
My fun, it's always fun, and you know what, I'm so blessed to get to do what I love. And Mark, Brian, Stephen, JT, Paul, Jean, Sharon, Jean, Linda, David, Paul, Valerie, and hundreds of the rest of you, thank you for being here. You honor me, and let's make it useful for you. Let's help you go rock GoToMeeting. Erica, back to you.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining. We'll see you next week, and thanks, Roger, and the team there behind you at Event Builder.